hands out of the window. Do it now.
I am turning off the ignition.
I didn't tell you to turn off the car.
My hands are visible, officer. I am parked at my residence.
Exit the vehicle. Step out slowly. Only mistake is you not listening to me. Get out!
I am Justice Marcus Sterling, and you are currently trespassing.
This incident, captured on the body-worn camera of a patrol officer in an affluent Virginia suburb, serves as a stark case study in confirmation bias, authority dynamics, and the catastrophic failure of de-escalation. The man in the driveway, Marcus Sterling, is not merely a resident. He is a seated justice of the state's Supreme Court, a legal scholar with 35 years of experience, earning a salary of $218,000 annually, and the owner of the $2.4 million property he is standing on. He had just returned from a charity gala at the governor's mansion. Standing opposite him is Officer Brandon Holloway, a 29-year-old patrolman with 6 years on the force. Holloway earns $58,000 a year and has 2 prior sustained complaints for discourtesy in the last 18 months. His personnel file notes a tendency toward premature escalation and tunnel vision during high-stress stops. Tonight, those tendencies will cost the city $18 million. Before we analyze the psychology of the escalation, I want you to pause and consider the initial approach. Officer Holloway claims he initiated the stop due to a suspicious vehicle report. Based on the first 30 seconds of interaction, does Holloway's level of aggression match the threat presented by a compliant driver in a driveway? Write your assessment in the comments below. Was this tactical caution or immediate bias? The setting of this encounter is crucial to understanding the psychological underpinnings of both men. Kingswood Estates is a neighborhood defined by its insulation. The streets are lined with century-old oaks that create a canopy of shadows under the amber streetlights. It is a place of manicured silence, where the sound of a closing car door usually signals the end of a workday, not the beginning of a police siege. The demographics are 92% white, with an average household income in the top 1% of the state. Historically, the police presence here is service-oriented, designed to protect property values and privacy. The sensory environment is low stimulus. Soft lighting, quiet engines, the smell of damp grass, and expensive landscaping. When a patrol car enters this space, it is usually to wave at a resident walking a dog. However, the psychological baseline for Officer Holloway is radically different. To him, the sight of an older model vehicle, even a classic one, driven by a black man in this specific zip code disrupts his pattern recognition. He does not see a resident returning home. He sees an anomaly. His training on criminal profiling has been warped by personal bias into a belief that out of place equals criminal intent. Conversely, Justice Sterling operates under the psychological protection of his station. For 3 decades, he has been the one issuing orders, interpreting the Constitution, and commanding a courtroom where bailiffs move at his nod. He feels safe not just because he is innocent, but because he embodies the law itself. He assumes that once his identity is established, the hierarchy will reset. He underestimates the blinding power of adrenaline and bias in a lower-ranking officer who feels his authority is being challenged. The escalation begins in earnest at timestamp 10:43:15. Holloway has established physical control of the scene, or so he believes, but he has failed to achieve psychological dominance. "Get on the ground. I'm not going to ask you again," Holloway shouts, his flashlight beam dancing erratically across Sterling's face. Sterling raises a hand to shield his eyes but does not descend. "I am not getting on the ground, officer. I have mobility issues with my knee, and I have committed no crime. I am asking you for your supervisor." Holloway interprets this refusal not as a physical limitation or legal assertion, but as pre-attack behavior. In his police report filed later, Holloway would write that the subject assumed a bladed stance and refused lawful commands. The video evidence contradicts this. Sterling is standing square to the officer, hands open and empty. "You're resisting. Turn around." Holloway holsters his firearm and draws his taser. The yellow plastic clicks as the safety is disengaged. "I am not resisting," Sterling says, his voice dropping an octave, becoming more judicial. "I am informing you of your error. Look at the license plate. It is a vanity plate. It reads justice. I don't care what it reads. Turn around." Holloway lunges forward. At 10:43:45, Holloway initiates physical contact. He grabs Sterling's left wrist and wrenches it behind the older man's back. The torque is significant. Sterling grunts in pain, his body jerking forward into the side of his own vehicle. "Stop fighting me," Holloway yells, pressing his forearm into the back of Sterling's neck, pinning his face against the cold metal of the car roof. "I am not fighting," Sterling gasps, the wind knocked out of him. "You are violating the Fourth Amendment." "Shut up." Holloway kicks Sterling's legs apart, forcing a wider stance. "You're under arrest for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest." The irony of the charge is palpable. Disorderly conduct requires a public disturbance. At this moment, the only person disturbing the peace of Kingswood Estates is Officer Holloway. The body cam captures the sound of Sterling's expensive suit fabric tearing at the shoulder seam as Holloway forces the second arm back. "You are making a career-ending mistake, son," Sterling whispers, his face mashed against the glass of the rear window. "Don't threaten me." Holloway tightens the handcuffs. The ratcheting sound is sharp and distinct. 3 clicks on the left, 4 on the right. The officer spins Sterling around, pushing him toward the patrol car. "You got ID on you?" "In my breast pocket," Sterling says, his breathing now labored. "Do not reach for it, unless you intend to add an illegal search to your list of liabilities." Holloway ignores the warning. He reaches into Sterling's suit jacket, his movements rough and searching. He pulls out a slim leather wallet. Here, we reach a critical legal friction point. The officer has detained a man on his own property without articulating a reasonable suspicion of a specific crime, other than resisting the detention itself. This is a circular legal justification often used to cover procedural errors. I want you to pause again. The officer is currently searching the wallet of a handcuffed man who has identified himself as a resident. Legally, does the officer have the right to search the wallet for ID after an arrest for resisting? Or should he have verified the residency claim first? What would you do in this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The video timestamp reads 10:45:10. Holloway opens the wallet. He is looking for a driver's license, likely expecting an out-of-state ID or a suspended status that would justify his suspicion. Instead, his flashlight beam lands on a gold badge recessed into the leather. Below the badge is a laminated card. Supreme Court of Virginia, Justice Marcus A. Sterling. The audio captures a sudden cessation of movement. Holloway's heavy breathing stutters. For 3 seconds, there is absolute silence in the driveway, save for the distant hum of a pool filter. "Read it," Sterling says. He is leaning against the hood of Holloway's cruiser, his hands cuffed behind him, his suit torn, his dignity assaulted, but his authority intact. "Read it out loud, officer." Holloway does not read it out loud. He stares at the credential. The camera angle shifts as Holloway looks up from the wallet to Sterling's face, then back to the wallet. The cognitive dissonance is crashing down. The thug he constructed in his mind is actually one of the highest-ranking judicial officials in the state. It says justice," Holloway stammers, his voice losing its aggressive timbre, replaced by a confused, childlike tone. "It does," Sterling confirms. "Now, remove these handcuffs." Holloway freezes. He is caught in a procedural trap. He has already called in the arrest. If he releases him now, he admits the arrest was baseless. If he keeps him cuffed, he is detaining a Supreme Court justice. I have to wait for my sergeant," Holloway says, retreating to the safety of bureaucracy. "You were resisting. You didn't listen." "I was compliant," Sterling corrects him, his voice sharpening. "You were profiling, and now you are kidnapping." "It's not kidnapping, it's a lawful detention." Holloway's voice cracks. He is trying to convince himself, not the judge. He keys his radio. "Dispatch, I need a supervisor on scene. Code 2. "Make it code 3, Sterling commands from the hood of the car. "Tell them you have assaulted a judicial officer." Holloway walks away from Sterling, pacing in small circles on the driveway. The body cam captures his muttering. "He wouldn't get out. He didn't listen. It's his fault." This is a defense mechanism known as externalization of blame. Holloway cannot accept that his instincts were wrong. So the reality must be wrong. At 10:52 Pries, a second cruiser arrives. Sergeant Miller exits the vehicle. He is an older officer, calm, with 20 years on the job. He sees the Mercedes, the torn suit, and the handcuffs. "What do we have, Holloway?" Miller asks, walking up the driveway, hitching up his belt. "He refused to exit the vehicle, Sarge. Aggressive non-compliance. I had to go hands-on, resisting and disorderly." Holloway recites, the script flowing fast. "Who is he?" Miller asks, looking at the man leaning against the cruiser. "He says he's a judge," Holloway says, handing Miller the wallet. "Claims he lives here." Miller takes the wallet. He shines his light on the badge. Then he shines his light on Sterling's face. Miller recognizes him immediately. The sergeant's body language changes instantly. His shoulders drop, his head tilts forward in a gesture of subconscious submission. "Oh, Jesus," Miller whispers. The audio picks it up clearly. Miller walks past Holloway, without looking at him. He approaches Sterling. "Justice Sterling, I am Sergeant Miller. I apologize for the inconvenience." "Inconvenience?" Sterling laughs, a cold, humorless sound. "Is that what we are calling felony assault these days, Sergeant?" "I'm going to take these off right now, sir," Miller says, reaching for his cuff key. "No," Sterling says. Both officers freeze. Holloway looks at Miller. Miller looks at Sterling. "Sir?" Miller asks. "Leave them on," Sterling says. "I want the chief of police to take them off. I want him to see exactly how his officers treat the citizens of this jurisdiction. Call him. Wake him up." "Sir, that's not necessary," Miller pleads, his voice tight. "We can resolve this right here. Officer Holloway made a mistake in identification." "Officer Holloway made a choice," Sterling replies. "He chose to escalate. He chose to ignore the law. And he chose to put his hands on me because he didn't like the car I was driving. Call the chief. Or I will call the governor from the back of this patrol car." The standoff lasts for 20 minutes. The video shows Holloway standing alone by the hedgerow, isolated from the conversation. He is checking his phone, likely texting a union rep. His posture is deflated. The adrenaline has faded, leaving only the cold dread of consequence. At 11:20 p.m., a black SUV tears up the driveway, lights flashing. Chief of Police Robert Davidson steps out. He is not in uniform. He is wearing jeans and a windbreaker over a t-shirt. He looks terrified. The chief bypasses his officers and goes straight to Sterling. "Justice Sterling, I'm so sorry. This is a misunderstanding." "Unlock me, Robert," Sterling says. He used the chief's first name. They know each other. They serve on the same ethics committees. The chief fumbles with the key, his hand shaking slightly. The cuffs click open. Sterling rubs his wrists. There are deep red abrasions where the metal bit into the skin. "Officer Holloway," Sterling calls out. Holloway steps forward, looking at the ground. "Yes, sir." "Look at me," Sterling commands. Holloway lifts his head. The camera captures his eyes wide, watery, fearful. "You have the power of life and death on your hip," Sterling says, his voice quiet but carrying across the lawn. "Tonight you tried to use it to validate your own ego. You are a danger to this community." "I was just doing my job," Holloway whispers. "No," Sterling says, turning to the chief. "He was doing a job, but he is finished now." The aftermath of this incident was not the swift justice one might expect. Procedural justice is slow, bureaucratic, and often frustrating. Officer Holloway was not fired that night. He was placed on paid administrative leave, pending an internal investigation. This is standard procedure designed to protect due process rights that Holloway had denied Sterling. The investigation lasted 4 months. During that time, the department attempted to negotiate a quiet settlement. They offered Sterling $500,000 to drop the matter and sign a non-disclosure agreement. Sterling refused. He filed a federal civil rights lawsuit alleging Fourth Amendment violations, false arrest, excessive force, and racial profiling. He hired a legal team that specialized in dismantling municipal immunity. The discovery phase was brutal for the department. Sterling's lawyers subpoenaed 5 years of Holloway's body cam footage. They found a pattern. Of the 42 discretionary stops Holloway had made in the last 2 years, 38 involved black or Hispanic drivers. In 19 of those cases, he used force or the threat of force. The suspicious vehicle claim from the night of the arrest was proven false. Dispatch records showed no calls regarding a Mercedes in Kingswood Estates. Holloway had hunted the car down simply because he saw it passing by on the main road. The city settled before trial. They knew that putting Holloway on the stand against a Supreme Court justice would result in a jury verdict that could bankrupt the municipality. The settlement amount was staggering, $18 million. But the money did not go to Sterling's bank account. In a move that surprised the media, Justice Sterling directed the entire sum after legal fees to be placed into a trust. The trust was established to fund legal defense for indigent defendants in the county who claimed police misconduct. He effectively used the police department's own budget to fund their future legal opposition. This leads us to a complex question about accountability. The taxpayers of the city are ultimately the ones paying this $18 million, not Officer Holloway personally. Is financial punishment effective when the individual officer doesn't pay the price? Or is this the only way to force departments to change their hiring practices? Tell me what you think should happen in cases like this in the comments. Officer Holloway was eventually fired 6 months after the incident. The union fought for his reinstatement, arguing that he followed training regarding non-compliant subjects. The arbitration board, reviewing the video and the settlement, upheld the termination. He was subsequently decertified by the state, meaning he can no longer work as a police officer in Virginia. However, he was not charged criminally. The local district attorney, citing insufficient evidence of criminal intent, declined to prosecute Holloway for assault or false imprisonment. Holloway currently works as a shift supervisor for a private security firm in a neighboring state. Justice Sterling returned to the bench 2 weeks after the incident. He refused to recuse himself from cases involving police misconduct, stating that his experience gave him necessary perspective. He has since become a vocal advocate for ending qualified immunity in the state legislature. The Mercedes was repaired, though Sterling rarely drives it at night anymore. The department was forced to overhaul its use of force policy. The Holloway Rule, as it is now unofficially known, requires officers to obtain supervisor approval before arresting a resident on their own property for non-violent offenses. The video of the arrest remains a chilling artifact. It shows how quickly the veneer of civilization can be stripped away when authority is challenged. It reminds us that, for men like Holloway, the badge is not a symbol of service, but a shield for bias. And for men like Sterling, even the highest accolades of society cannot fully protect them from the presumption of guilt that comes with their skin color. The camera does not lie, but it only records the surface. The true damage is internal, invisible, and lasting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.